Hi and welcome back to Reel Reviews, where today I'm taking a look at the Disney Plus darling, the Golden Globe winning The Bear. This Chicago-based family melodrama has taken audiences by storm for the last 2 years, and as we launch into season 3, which hit the streaming service last week, it's time to dig into exactly what it is about this Christopher Story created melodrama which has got everybody talking. So whether or not you've worked in catering or not, take it from someone who has and did, that The Bear is as close to the real deal as you are ever going to see on a dramatic show. What you get in the first and second season are nothing short of absolutely epic storytelling. You've got a sort of a failing beef sandwich shop, you've got a death in the family, and you have this constant bickering as well as the stresses of the business, and it really is incredibly engrossing. Not only that, it's sharp, it's funny, it's dramatic, it's on point, and it feels relatable, because what you get with the first episode is a very much a sensory experience. It's a combination of images, montage and music, and Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, who did the soundtrack / score for The Social Network. It mirrors that very much so. So it's very emotive, it's very atmospheric, and it draws you in. And beyond that, it will be giving too much away. I think episode 2 and 3 changed tack, they changed soundtrack, and it really does begin to elevate and progress to a point that you feel you are in the presence of something truly awesome. I think in dramatic terms, I think Disney Plus and Hulu really knock this out of the park. I think Jeremy Allen White and the central ensemble really are quite extraordinary in the show, and it continues to evolve, it continues to impress. Right, so I'm going to be giving The Bear Part 3 a 5 out of 5. Yes, it's another rare 5 out of 5 top score from me, but this really, I think, deserves it. It's hypnotic, it's engaging, it promotes debate, it's dramatic, it ticks all the boxes, and then it changes things, it moves the goalposts, and that's exactly what you need it to do. Hi and welcome back to Reel Reviews, where today I'm diving into Beverly Hills Cop Axel F. That's right, Eddie Murphy is back in the saddle as the eponymous Axel Foley. So back in the early 80s, Eddie Murphy had a run of movies and basically had this meteoric rise. Thanks to Saturday Night Live, he was on there, I think 21, 22 years old. He did his stand-up Delirious, which again is the stuff of legend, if only for the amount of expletives. He was in 48 Hours with Nick Nolte, which then spawned another 48 Hours sometime later. But he was also in Trading Places with Dan Aykroyd, and again, Beverly Hills Cop 1982, which, believe it or not, was originally written for Sylvester Stallone. So with the second and third movies, which were inevitable, bearing in mind that Beverly Hills Cop made so much money, it's a surprise now to find, as Murphy is, shall we say, advancing in years, that he wants to return to one of his most famous characters. So what exactly is it about Axel Foley in this Beverly Hills Cop Axel F, which is really that interesting to, shall we say, multiple generations now, rather than people who just hang around for the nostalgia? So aside from the roster of returning characters from the original, which would be John Ashton as Taggart, Judge Reinhold as Billy Rosewood, and Paul Reiser, who makes an appearance, as well as, I think his name is Jeffrey, the character, they're all now older and less wise, it would seem, because they still have Foley in their lives, and ultimately it's the estranged father-daughter relationship, his daughter being played by Taylor Page, her name is Jane Saunders. That relationship is the thing that gets him out to Beverly Hills to begin with. But it seems that Murphy has lost none of his charisma in terms of connecting with his character, and actually the script is pretty good. Right, so I'm going to be giving Beverly Hills Cop Axel F a 4 out of 5 on the big old 5 scale. This is a quality film. Yes, it is backed by a streaming service, and yes, it doesn't try to, shall we say, surprise an audience who might be expecting something else, because this is exactly what you're getting. You're getting Eddie Murphy on top form. You're getting to retread a familiar story with Axel Foley, and you get to see all of the characters that made the original so good. So, hi and welcome back to Reel Reviews, where today I'm back in NT Live territory looking at The Motive and the Cue. This is a story concerning the 1964 production of Hamlet, which starred Richard Burton on Broadway and was directed by Sir John Gielgud. So the important thing to note going into The Motive and the Cue is the fact that this isn't actually about Hamlet. It is about the rehearsal period of any play and any sort of collaboration between a group of actors over an intense period of time to create a finished product. It explores the idea of art and the art form and creation itself, and how important it is, but it also dissects the personalities of these two men, where you had Sir John Gielgud, who had theatrical zeal, as they say, running through the veins, and was a naturally gifted performer, to the point where by the time we meet him at the age of 60 in The Motive and the Cue, he's pretty much done everything, and he considers his career to be almost over. So his collaboration with Burton is very much a shot in the arm for him. On the flip side of that, you've got Burton, who has immense wealth, popularity, and was possibly one of the first movie stars to be hounded by the media because of his association with Elizabeth Taylor, who's played by Pippa Middleton in this play. So the thing that draws you in are those performances from Mark Gatiss as Gielgud and Johnny Flynn as Burton, where there is this power dynamic, this to and fro in terms of domineering personalities, where you have like the uber experienced theatrical actor versus the instinctive sort of fly-by-night cowboy with all the charisma and power and good looks, whereas obviously, you know, being older, Gielgud's looks had waned and he felt a lot of his power as an actor had diminished. So for me, the thing that turns this into a 5 out of 5 on the big old 5 scale is the cinematic way that Sam Mendes has approached the set construction, and the way the structure itself of the play works, because it meanders between rehearsal and live performance of the play itself, with Gatiss or Middleton or Flynn stepping forward or stepping back depending upon the point in the play we're talking about. People are caught in silhouette and they freeze, and then the frame closes in and it expands very much like the iris of a camera, and it's incredibly clever and it works effortlessly. So hi and welcome back to Reel Reviews, where today I'm diving into real retro territory as I take a look back at Chinatown. Now in its 50th anniversary year, it's being re-released on 4K Ultra HD in celebration. So there are many reasons why Chinatown is considered to be a classic of 70s cinema. First and foremost is the involvement of Robert Towne, the screenwriter, who would go on to win an Oscar for the project. Next up is Jack Nicholson, there as Jake Giddys, who would then go on to make One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, The Shining, Terms of Endearment, and win a multitude of Oscars. Next is the involvement of Faye Dunaway, who I believe had just come off McCabe and Mrs. Miller with Warren Beatty, but would go on to make Network with Sidney Lumet, which is again another staple of that era in cinema. Next you've got Roman Polanski, the disgraced director who had come off Rosemary's Baby with Mia Farrow, I believe, and was making his name in an unfamiliar genre, and sort of like becoming very much a journeyman director. Next you had an absolute legend in the directing field, John Huston, who was also involved in a small supporting role as Noah Cross. You see, the problem with Chinatown is there's too much going on, there's too much talent on screen, it's time to move on to the next section. Yes, it is ostensibly about water shortage in the Los Angeles area during that time, but it also gets deeper, it gets incestuous, it's dark, it's unpleasant. It also has an incredibly downbeat ending, which is completely unheard of for Hollywood movies at that time, and it has an absolute powerhouse performance at its centre with Jack Nicholson, shall we say, firing on all cylinders. So yes, I'm going to be giving Chinatown on 4K Ultra HD a 4 out of 5 on the big old 5 scale. It's got the characters, it's got the setting, it's got the nostalgia, and it's a solidly written Oscar-winning screenplay. But welcome back to Reel Reviews, where once again I'm diving into NT Live territory, this time looking at Noel Coward's Present Laughter. This is the 2019 production done at the Old Vic and starring Andrew Scott and Indira Varma. Andrew Scott, obviously, we know from Ripley and Sherlock and countless other, shall we say, more high-profile titles, including All of Us Strangers. Indira Varma is known for Game of Thrones and The Night Manager, which is currently in its second season filming. And with Present Laughter, what we essentially get is a dissection of celebrity as it was known in the early part of the 20th century, before the onset of the internet and TikTok and these so-called celebrities who were famous for not really being particularly good at any one thing. So what you have with Present Laughter is Andrew Scott playing Gary Essendon. He is a self-absorbed actor who thrives on adulation. He thrives on validation. He lives in fear of getting old. He has multiple partners, both his wife and his friends' husbands, and then there are the hangers-on and the fans and the obsessive playwright wannabes, and essentially this is a farce which is by definition built up of an escalating course of events, which sort of clash, where characters meet each other, miss each other by minutes, and there is a tremendous amount of sexual, shall we say, on double entendre and overtones thrown in for good measure. So I'm going to be giving Present Laughter a 4 out of 5 on the big old 5 scale, again because I think it has something pertinent to say about social, shall we say, social preoccupations with celebrity that Andrew Scott and the other members of this cast are excellent, and it is a little bit old school Noel Coward, and yes, farce does have its limits, but as I said in the previous section, I really think it has something to say, which is very much an honest and truthful representation which ties into the present day. Hi, so welcome back to Reel Reviews, where once again I'm taking a retro look back at a classic television series. This time it's going to be Ozark. It premiered in 2017 on Netflix. It stars Jason Bateman, Laura Linney and a cavalcade of ensemble players. That's right, this really is epic stuff, and I know it's been finished a while, but after all, let's be fair, Ozark needs to be on everybody's watch list indefinitely. So Jason Bateman was on board as a producer. Laura Linney was involved as a producer in the latter stages, I believe, of the series as a whole, but ultimately this concerned the Bird family, Marty Bird and Wendy, and their children Charlotte and Jonah, and Marty was just, on the surface at least, he was a financial analyst. He juggled people's money, he made sure they had a pension at the end of their working life, and you couldn't get any more cut and dried if you tried. Yet in the opening episode, which I contest is possibly one of the best opening episodes of any show ever made, not only do you get a full understanding of exactly what this character is like through intricate yet concise voiceover from Jason Bateman as Marty Bird, but you really get the odds stacked against the family from the outset, and it's really, it never loses any of its power. It never diminishes, and it always it leaves an impact, irrespective of how many times you've seen it, how many times you go back. It's exactly the same as, shall we say, the perfect pilot episode, apparently, for any comedy series, was Cheers, the one with Ted Danson and Woody Harrelson, for those who are old enough and for those who still don't remember. So this is what we're talking about. Ozark really was the gold standard and remains the gold standard in terms of maybe a family melodrama and espionage thriller. There was no spies involved, but there are cartel. So my love for Ozark is undeniable as a series, as an idea, and the performances, which are just absolutely exceptional from everybody involved. And it's dark and it's human and it feels real and it feels edgy and it feels like it has stakes and it has everything that drama should have. And ultimately it took over from House of Cards as being the, shall we say, the reason to get Netflix. But yeah, this is a 5 out of 5 on the big old 5 scale. Simple as that. Let's not look any further. Just go and watch it again. Break it open, because good God, it's just amazing. And that final season will blow your hair right back. Right, onto the trailer. Hi and welcome back to Reel Reviews, where today I'm taking a look at Unfrosted. This is the new Netflix, I say new, it's been out since May, written and directed movie by Jerry Seinfeld, the man behind Seinfeld and Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee, and it concerns the rivalry between post-breakfast cereal and Kellogg's in the 50s and the creation of the Pop-Tart. So, how bad can it be? Let's find out, shall we? So the good news for anyone choosing to watch Unfrosted on Netflix is that there is seriously a decent cast here. You've got Melissa McCarthy, who is a bit ho-hum, but if you look her up in Please Forgive Me with Richard E. Grant, that's the gold. You've also got Peter Dinklage, who is solid and is, you should look up Station Agent, which is one of his first movies and is truly epic. Hugh Grant is there, and Hugh Grant's just sort of having a career renaissance of mammoth proportion, and is actually in a film coming up in cinemas called Heretic. I've seen the trailer, it looks epic. And then you've got Jerry Seinfeld himself, who is just an endearing and engaging personality and is a comedy legend. So fundamentally the issue with Unfrosted is that the jokes don't land. They simply don't. And you've got a hugely talented group of people who have all come together, and obviously Seinfeld is, you know, he comes with a certain degree of quality attached to the script. So this is why people have signed on, because they want to work with him. Unfortunately, a lot of the jokes don't land. The best thing about this movie are the two kids who spend most of their time in a dumpster rooting through the garbage from the Post and the Kellogg's factories, and they're just eating offcuts from, and this is the thing, and James Marsden is in there for some reason, and Dinklage is giving it his best, and John Hamm is there sort of doing a Mad Men rip-off, which is epic, and you've got Hugh Grant, who has just, I think, sort of recycled his Paddington 2 persona, but sort of cranked it up a notch, and it's sort of cool and it's sort of funny to see him in the Terry the Tiger sort of costume with the head off and stuff, and him being sort of a pompous thespian, but there is a lot more depth to the man than that, and Seinfeld is what Seinfeld is. Either you love it or you loathe it, but the point is this: Unfrosted, for me at least, it didn't hit. Right, so I'm going to give this a 3 out of 5 on the big old 5 scale, for all the reasons which I've outlined previously. This really is sort of like a really mediocre, middling, a whole waste of talent movie, and it's a huge shame. Hi and welcome back to Reel Reviews, where today I'm looking at the first fully AI generated animated feature film called Dread Club Vampire's Verdict. It's written and directed by Horo Jackson. It will be imminently available online, and it is a whirlwind gothic romance with bloodlust and courtroom drama. So it's incredibly stylized. The script is better. The construction of the film as a whole is much more cohesive. You do have tangible characters which are believable and do engage. And ultimately the story, as much as it is quite stereotypical, does go into the vampiric myth. It does expand on the idea of gothic fiction in terms of narrative, and also how it relates to the film as a whole. And the characters, the central pairing of Betty and Duchamp Deville, bearing in mind they are a completely artificial creation, are genuinely compelling in the performances which come through. There is such a variety in terms of the vocal performances, the voice work which goes into this, and you have to remember on occasion that none of this is actually done by an actor in a studio in front of a microphone. This is all being conjured up out of thin air, and the inflection and the feeling and the emotion which comes through in these performances really is something which you sort of got to pinch yourself at and be reminded that this isn't real. So I'm going to be giving Dread Club Vampire's Verdict a 4 out of 5 on the big old 5 scale for every reason that I have outlined, and I will make sure that in the review that I am going to write on this particular film that there is a link to the film itself, should you be interested. So on that note, I'm going to dive into the trailer. Let's do that. And so it is, you've reached the end of the video review for Dread Club Vampire's Verdict, which will be readily available through my website as well as through other means of streaming, I feel sure. So this is the bit where I go. If you've liked the video, then give me a thumbs up. Failing that, you can always drop a comment in the comment box below and I will respond. And then finally, you can just subscribe so that every Tuesday and every Saturday when I drop another one of these videos, you can pop in and listen or watch as much or as little as you like, and then go about your day. In the meantime, check out the rest of the channel and maybe pop over to the Patreon page. Take care. Cheers. Bye.